While everybody's getting settled in, I just want to thank everybody for attending. Everybody who's live here at Washburn, and certainly everybody who's dialed into the I don't know if you can say dialed in anymore. I guess logged into the webinar. So very much appreciate everybody's participation tonight. So we'll wait till it actually gets started, but we want to try to keep this to certainly to 90 minutes, and meetings can go shorter if need be. So we're not going to try to stretch the time out. Although I do have a pretty good list of jokes, but I don't know if any of them are clean enough for this audience. Okay, so let's get started. My name's Ian Larkin. I'm the incoming executive chair of the Winnetka Caucus Council. I took over for Peter Eck, who I think just walked in, who did a fantastic job. And while he's seated right over there, up there, I think I just want to formally and informally acknowledge all the work that he's done. Peter's done more for the caucus than I certainly will do this year, even though I'll try hard to be as good. But in terms of organization and setting us up for success, in a year where I think there were 13 candidates slated. So I think tonight, first and foremost, is thanking Peter. So thank you. He hasn't left. He's still on, and I've only called him and texted him about 12 times, including over the weekend for a two-factor authentication code. So he really, we got to watch and see where he is at all times. So I'll kick us off. Let's see if I can make this work. Uh-oh, Connor, this was working before. Can you skip ahead? Is it working? I know. So I can talk like that because he's my son. So and he can talk like that because I'm his dad. Oops. Oh no. All right, now it's going crazy. Okay, so here's the agenda. I'm going to do a quick welcome and kind of level set what the caucus is. I'm going to try to pick everybody's pocket tonight because we need money. And then we're going to get straight to what's important here, and that is the village board leader presentations and then the Q&A. So we're going to kick it off here. And I think first of all, let's level set on the Q&A tonight. We've got a number of questions that have been sent in advance. We're taking questions at hello@winnetkacaucus.org live. So Matt's going to run us through the Q&A at the end, which I very much appreciate. And then we will pass along any unanswered questions to the board after tonight. And we'll do our best to try to follow up with the boards, but everybody's busy, and we'll try to make sure that those get answered to the best of our abilities. Tonight we're going to focus the questions really on the taxing bodies in the village board. So there's been some bylaw questions. There's been some questions about the caucus itself and participation and tax or districts and et cetera. And we will try to field those, but not tonight. So we promise to follow up the best that we can. I've tried to answer some today already to the best of my ability, having a day job and trying to get ready for this. But we will follow up with you. It's not a large number of questions, so it's a manageable number for us, and we will try to do that. But tonight it's really focused on the four leaders here tonight. So who we are, I'm not going to spend time on the caucus. If you're here and you're actually logged in, you probably know pretty much everything about the caucus, probably no more than I do. Certainly, I've been here 25 years. I was a Park District Commissioner for 8. This is my 3rd year on the caucus, but there's always absolutely a lot more to learn. So I think what's important is what we're trying to do and what we do. We do the surveying, we do the slating. We try to engage with the boards as best we can without being too much of a burden, and then we support the candidates that are slated through the caucus. So that's our role. It's pretty simple, but it's an awful lot of work. And I want to, to do that job, we need to raise money. Ted has done a fantastic job getting us on somewhat of a solid footing with financial support this year, but we need more money. It just takes more money. It takes more money to run, the website, the Survey Monkeys, the Zoom that we're on tonight, the Constant Contact, Google, G Suite, et cetera. So please, this is all volunteer and all donation driven. So please donate, whether it's tonight or at some point over the next 2 to 3 months. Yeah.
That 7 to 10,000 is not a bad estimate for most years. Last year, with the more contested stuff and all the systems that were put in place for that, it was closer to 12 to 15. So just as a point of reference, it could be more than.
Yeah. And I'll repeat it because the people on the webinar may not have heard that. Ted just weighed in to say, hey, 7 to 10 is a normal year. It could be up to 12 to 15 like it was last year, where we had contested issues. We had lots of slated candidates, et cetera. So 7 to 10 is a low estimate. So we need money, and we'd love for people to donate. We'll tell you how. It's on the website, but we'll also tell you how at the end of this presentation. So who we are, this is the executive committee. We have a number of people who have been around the block and have done this before, but we also have some new faces on this committee as well, certainly in the caucus. It's caucus council itself, which we'll get to in a minute. So there's 67 this year. The max is 68. We have every district represented. So very good participation. I think it's the highest it's been in a number of years. Frankly, it only works when we have, 50, 60, 68 people working on this. And so we have a lot of work to do, and there's always room for more. So we have 67 of your friends and neighbors. We're all volunteers. We're all doing the best we can, just like the village leaders here tonight. So really excited about not only the executive committee that I flashed up on the previous slide, but also with the 67 that we have participating on the various committees and platform, the slating and the platforms. So let's talk about the goals for this year. They're very simple. Improve transparency and communication. This is really taking up what Peter started and what he took over as well. It's not perfect. We're not perfect. We're doing our best. Please keep sending me emails. I appreciate them. In terms of, how to do better, what to post, what not to post, how the data's cut, et cetera. So we're going to take it all in, and we're going to do the best we can, but there's always room for improvement. So we're continuously improvement on the transparency and the communication. And frankly, we're trying to catch up to the modern world. It used to be fairly easy. It was newsletters and mail, and now we have all these various forms of communication, et cetera. So we're trying to catch up a little bit, and I think we're going to make great progress this year. We're still trying to build a foundation. As I mentioned, Peter left a legacy of a lot of files that were very well organized, so that when I started a month or so ago, it was a really easy process. I'm going to try to pass it along and do the same. We're trying to run a clear, effective, and efficient process. It goes with number one. And then I think this is, maybe the most important thing even though it's number 4, we want to make serving on the caucus council fun, and meet your neighbors, have fun. It really is a gateway to becoming a village leader as a park district commissioner, on the board, village board, et cetera, on the library team. So I think a lot of people get started here and then realize, hey, I can make a contribution to Winnetka, and maybe I'll throw my hat in the ring as a candidate. So we have to make the experience for the 67 of us fun and rewarding. And so we're going to try to do that. We had our first after hours cocktail party over at 501. It was a late night to start with, and we had a decent sized turnout for a 8:30 start, which was about 20 minutes after my bedtime. So we'll try to do more in the more regular hours. What's the work to be done this year? We need to slate 3 village candidates, and the only way to slate 3 village candidates is to have at least three candidates to slate. So right now, right here, I want to make a plea or a call out for, if you're at all interested, please, when applications come online, please throw your hat in the ring, because the more we have to choose from, it makes our job harder but better, because now we have you know, we can take 3 out of 7 or 3 out of 8 or 3 out of 9 or 3 out of 10. So we want to get village candidates in so that we have some choices that we can make in the summer and fall. Stanton Anderson is going to really head up revamping and simplifying the bylaws. There's I don't know, 128 bylaws with 438 or some number of sub clauses. I'm not a lawyer, but you know, we have 12,000 people and we almost have as many bylaws as households. So we have to simplify those. We have to revamp those. We have to bring them into the modern times in terms of, you know, making sure that we can do meetings like this. We can do virtual voting. So it's a big job, and I think now's the year to do it because we only have 3 candidates to slate. Hopefully tonight is the kickoff of not build a strong partnership, but continue a strong partnership with the taxing bodies. We're partners, and we need to continue to be partners. And then I mentioned the last one, which is really a concerted effort to raise more money for the caucus council and make sure that we have enough money to not only run this year, but also leave a little bit for next year's work to be done. So I think that's all my advertising or advertisement. We're going to start in here in a second. But first, let me go with who's here, and very much appreciate everybody being here tonight. Alyssa Raff is representing D36. She has a work event to run to. She was already going to be first up because I reversed ordered from last year. They were last up last year. So she's going to give her presentation, go through how we're doing on the planks, and then she's going to scoot out of here. And any questions for her, we'll follow up with directly via email. Melissa is here representing the library, so thank you very much. Christina Cotto, and then Bob Dearborn. Bob's 24 hours into the job, so we'll see what he's done for us lately. And just like the WCC, these are volunteers, and I'm not sure why they do it, especially over the last few years, but I appreciate them doing it. So let's just recognize they are volunteers. They've given hundreds, probably thousands. Bob's 24 hours into it, but he's been, I don't know, how long did you serve on the 8 years? So, I mean, he's up for another, what, 2? Is that? Yeah. So even though he's 24 hours in, he's given already 8 years of his life to the village. So, let's just recognize their contribution and the fact that they're making, sacrifices every day and evening for being at events like this. So with, oops, I'm going backwards. Okay. Sorry, Connor, I got it. So I do have to give a PowerPoint disclaimer. I did the PowerPoint, not the taxing board. So you'll know in a second why I put up this disclaimer. But this year we did request that they keep it to 5 to 10 minutes of comments about how they're doing against the planks, any other initiatives that people may be interested in, and then we'll turn it over to Q&A. So why don't we start with Alyssa?
Thank you so much. How are we on the mic? Okay. Closer. Thank you. Better? Closer.
Yeah,
Up.
bring it all. There you go.
Better? No. All the way. All the way. All right. Thanks. 2 disclaimers before we begin. First of all, I started my day here at 7:30 a.m. today because I have a work event that I have to go to for 24 hours, and our 7th grader will be in the band concert tomorrow night. And wanted to hear the dress rehearsals since I was going to miss the actual show, and it was awesome. So you're all in for a treat, anyone going tomorrow night. And the other disclaimer is I always feel nervous on the stage because when I was 13 years old, I was on the stage as a Washburn 8th grader in Florence and the Nightingale. And I was the Nightingale, and it's a little nerve-wracking to go back in time, but we're back. Please excuse the informal attire. I was at a daughter's equestrian event before that, trying to pack it all in. And it is a pleasure to be here. Dan Waters is our school board president. I'm the vice president of the board, and we have a great board, and we're working hard on these caucus planks and much more. So thank you for the opportunity to share the work underway. The plank, making sure your screen matches mine, that we wanted to address first is on personal devices in the classroom. And it is incredibly important to many parents, especially those of us with preteen girls, to think about how to limit access to so much on technology to not impede their social and emotional development. But as it relates to our schools, we had to implement, starting last school year, something called this school year, frankly, a Yonder pouch. And I really wondered what the feedback was going to be from kids and parents and teachers alike. And it's been an extraordinary success. So when kids enter our schools, they have to put the device in a pouch that's locked and not accessible till the end of the day. And that includes watches and smartwatches. And so it's been incredibly well received. There was not mutiny on the Apollo as expected from the students. There has been overwhelming gratitude from the teachers. And I think, if anything, on a personal note, that I've heard parents gripe about is that if we send students home with iPads for homework, which is completely understandable, why some of the same limitations on those iPads that are in the schools aren't at the homes in terms of what can be accessed. But otherwise, I think our technology, personal devices in the classroom, except for when they go home, has been a raging success. And we're proud of the courage it took to make that choice and the impact of it. Tech in the classroom is related but different. That can include huge, beautiful touchscreen screens in our elementary schools. And it can also include what I was just describing as the interactivity with iPads for pedagogical instruction. And we continue to develop what that technology interplay should be. And it, of course, needs to be aligned with curricular approaches across all grade levels. And there are settings that we of course set for the tech in the classroom that can of course be further refined by parents at home. Not to say that there aren't any constraints, but I think the interplay between personal devices in the classroom, tech in the classroom, and how all these devices continue to impact our students' lives is something we will continue to measure very carefully. We actually measure how much tech is used in the classrooms. We measure it, so we have a more balanced approach than just having kids staring at screens. And that, I guess, is a nice dovetail into this progressive ed and student measurement. There's so much we could talk about in this plank. It says complete. I would also add that it is forever being underway. And while we will always refine our progressive approach, which was, smack dab the center of our new strategic plan that we just approved in our last board meeting, there are lots of things that have bubbled up this year, including that natural push-pull tension between curricular foundational instruction that needed to be shored up, as well as the desire for whole child and project-based learning. And I'm very pleased to report that our teachers have committed to this summer dedicating much of their instructional practice to project-based learning and within units of newly implemented literacy curriculum to ensure we're finding our way in that push and pull. And I think that we've launched further assessments on whole child performance. And what we're really looking at is growth effects, right? Not just how your kid performs on a specific static moment, but how much are you growing? And there are now in all of our data sets that are aggregated in a platform called Otis, the ability to see what a growth rate could be or should be, and then measure, did we grow that much or not? And so what we're trying to say is hold ourselves accountable of, if you had a growth rate of X and we hit it or exceeded it, we could take some credit. But if you had a projected growth rate of X and we didn't hit it, then we know we didn't do what we needed to do. And I think that level of precision and measurement and accountability is pretty powerful. We have a really thoughtful board and incredibly thoughtful administration about how data needs to drive decision making, in addition to that whole child approach, which is once again inherently in tension with one another, and also not. Because if you have the ability to measure a student's success to that level of precision, you can ostensibly help drive a curriculum that's more tailored to his or her wants, needs, and growth opportunities. And so that's our goal, to leverage data to drive the best of progressive ed. And then similarly, since that's a difficult, complicated topic, progressive ed in some ways to explain, but also communication being so incredibly important. Communications and clarity are a plank that we know came out as a resounding importance from the caucus, and it's something that I would agree completely is simply in progress. We have many new communication tools, whether they're podcasts or other social media communications, in an attempt to be more accessible in how we communicate. And the ongoing refinement of our communication strategy with the community, by the board, by the administration, et cetera, is the centerpiece of that new strategic plan. We know it can be a really powerful, positive two-way dialogue, and we know it also needs work, and we are prepared to do that work, and it's on our minds. I don't know if you want to go to the next slide, since they're your slides, not mine. I think I wanted to just share a couple key facts and stats to wrap it up. On the curricular updates, this is one of the pieces I was most proud of as a board last couple of years, in that in the data was very clear to us that there needed to be a brand new curricular approach for literacy in order to ensure that we were delivering upon students who left kindergarten with more basic literacy skills than they had previously. And the results have been extraordinary. Even growth on benchmark assessment data at all grade levels is exceeded, but the outcomes in kindergarten over the last, over all the 3 elementary schools in the last year alone have showed, these instructional practice changes have improved all of our youngest learners, which is crucial because it's such an important foundation to get set and at the right time and in the right way. And I think that the piece that we've been so inspired by the literacy review, both in terms of the amount of our staff and our teachers who were engaged in that process and selecting as well as piloting various curriculum, is that we now are kicking off the same process in math. And it's exciting. It's exciting. There's a whole other world that will come out of these curricular changes, will also allow for even better differentiation for our learners, which is a passion point of many of us on the board. And also that there's just so much thoughtfulness going on the administrative team and the teachers on how we're evolving that math curriculum. I feel grateful not only for our students of today, but our students of tomorrow. And lastly, on a strategic plan and our board as a whole, we have just approved it. There were many key pillars that were the same. A key change would be, or update would be, that community connection and partnership. I think that's a new area of focus for us based on that plank from the caucus as well as our own surveying that we know we want to nail even more. And there's so much that in terms of student motivation engagement that's going well. We kept a similar theme: culture and well-being, staff engagement, and transparent fiscal stewardship. I've been on the finance committee for the last 4 years, and there's going to be a major, obviously necessary facility audit underway to understand what improvements are still going to be there for long-term facilities management, even after the referendum dollars have been spent on time, on budget, and prudently. But we have aging buildings. There's no secret we have aging buildings, and they are expensive to maintain. And so we need to have this facility audit to understand what our real exposure is, and then share back with the community what we learn and come up with a plan if need be. And so that 2025 to 2030 strategic plan is approved and ready to implement. And the folks who are in the boardroom with me, besides Dan Waters, our president, are we had the 3 slated board members post-April. 2 were incumbents and 1 new member, Andrew Hotz. And he brings great data insights to the table as a Google exec. So we're grateful for his willingness to serve. And then we had a vacated seat, as some of you may know, and then we ran a process and received 12 qualified candidates and interviewed 7. And much to my delight, Jackie McLaughlin was selected and is here in the audience today. So, and will fulfill the remaining 2 years of that term. And so to close, there'll be an infographic going out to community from the schools, but I think a couple highlights I just wanted to share to wrap it up. We've piloted 5 different resources for our recent math curricular review. We had 98% of our kindergarten students demonstrate expected or higher growth with their winter literacy benchmarks. It was only 86% this time last year, so that's pretty awesome growth in a year. And 816 hours of implementation to support the literacy curriculum other way from coaching from the American Reading Company. And the why I share those stats is this is a lot of work, and it's hard work, and it's happening by dedicated teachers, dedicated administration, and supported by extraordinary parents in this community. So I'm proud of the work we're doing. It's a lot. And thank you for the opportunity to share how we're working on those planks. And any questions, again, that was previously stated that you have for us, we will happily answer by email. I'm sorry, I have to go in a minute here.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate you coming and squeezing us in between a work event and an equestrian event.
No.
So really appreciate that. And I'll just give a shout out. We have 7 kids.
Oh my goodness.
Youngest is in 4th grade. The oldest is up there running the AV. So it's good to have him back in Washburn. And we just celebrated the last Crow Island Spring Sing.
Oh my
20
goodness.
years. So
Did you have tears?
no.
Oh.
I have 0 tears. I still have a bad back from those benches, but
Okay.
we'll talk about that later.
Next in the facilities plan, duly noted.
Yeah, let's turn them over the other way. Okay, so next up is Melissa Mitchell from the library. So
Right.
I'll run the two slides yeah. Well, I put them in PowerPoint. That's why they're so ugly. Hang on. But the content is yours. Did everybody? Good? Yeah, I think you're good.
Thanks. And I had the mission up here is just kind of a reminder that the intent is to be a place within the community that is a resource that provides enrichment and education and sort of a place to go and learn and discover. So we had 4 planks coming from the caucus this year. The first was the Northfield branch vision. So an update on that. That is in progress. The Northfield in March of this year and ask questions about the Northfield expansion. So we feel like we have a pretty good handle and understanding of what patrons want and are looking for within the Northfield expansion. And then for an update for anybody who might not be aware, that building is significantly smaller than the size of a building should be to service a community the size of ours and the amount of people who come through there. So the Village of Northfield owns the building. We are working with them on an expansion plan for how to enlarge the building in candidly what is a challenging construction environment. So the Village of Northfield will be expanding the envelope of the building, and that'll be their responsibility. And then we are working with them on that. And then we will be responsible for the interior of the building. So that project is currently out to bid. And so we are just waiting to see who Northfield chooses and kind of where that lands before we are able to move forward. It's been kind of a long time coming. It's been in the works for a few years. And then we've been budgeting for it for even longer. So it'll be exciting to get that off the ground. Plank number 2 is offering best-in-class services. This is also in progress. This will always be in progress. Best-in-class services always evolve, and we will evolve with them. We will evolve with the community. But for right now, we have a plan to rework our shelving at Winnetka so that we are providing more adult and youth collections. That is something that we've heard from the community, wanting to have more options and a bigger collection. So it's something that we are working on for this coming fiscal year. We did refresh our makerspace in the basement of the Winnetka Library. If you have not been, it's called the Studio. There's all sorts of stuff there. I used the embroidery machine with my daughter last week. So we added equipment there. We refreshed that makerspace, and then we've also added more in-person adult programming in response to patron requests. There had been a lot of online programming coming out of COVID and the pandemic, and now people are wanting to shift back to being in person. So we have made that adjustment. Our third plank is a third place. This is also in progress. You may have heard there's been a lot of talk about third places kind of out in the world lately. People have home, people have work, and then where else do you go? And so there's been a request within the community for the library to be a third place, whether it's somebody working there, studying there, just kind of hanging out. And so we have added tables and chairs in Winnetka for studying and working. We will be adding more in this coming fiscal year. We've also included additional work and study areas within the Northfield expansion project. So we have planned for that when that building expands, that there will be more study and workspace there. And then not in terms of physical space, but we have added digital subscriptions to the New York Times. So if you have a library card, if you have the app, you are able to access paywalled sites or news through your library card. So we've added that New York Times subscription. And then we've increased our selection of e-resources. There's been a big demand there. So more e-resources are available. And then finally, our fourth plank is meeting evolving staff needs, which is really great to hear that the community is prioritizing our staff needs so that they can better serve the community. This is also in progress and will probably always be in progress because just like the community needs evolve and change, so do the staff needs. So we are involving the Northfield staff in the design of the Northfield expansion project. So we're working with them to understand their requirements on a day-to-day basis in their work to help them better do their jobs. We are also evaluating the staff space at Winnetka. You may not have ever seen it. It's in the basement behind a door. They have very low ceilings. Their desks are all packed together. There are a ton of people in a small space. So we're working with the Winnetka staff or within Winnetka to evaluate that staff space and how we can change it and make it more functional. And then finally, we've implemented a pager system within the Winnetka study rooms that just makes communication there better and easier with the staff. So those are kind of our updates there. And then just giving some highlights in terms of additional things that we have going on. We are continuing to innovate and evolve all the time, every day. I gave an update that we've updated the studio. We just got a new roof on the Northfield building, which seems very not exciting, but it is very exciting. The Northfield roof was in really bad shape and had been leaking for years. And there was concern about it impacting our collection, and that has finally been resolved, and we are very excited about it. So you can't see it, it's a flat roof, but come by and celebrate anyway. And then we are just about to kick off some facility improvements in the Winnetka building. These will start in May this month and run through early fall. We had the fire department and the police department in, I think, last year to do an evaluation of the building and find out if there are ways that we could make it more safe or more functional. For example, there aren't a whole lot of egress points currently, just with the original design of the building. So that's something that we're working on improving and having additional egress points to what exists today. So there are a few different things that we're putting in place. We got an updated elevator last year. And so we will just continue to make improvements there where we need to. And then finally, we are continuing to collaborate with neighboring libraries, local businesses, our other governing bodies. This is something that we take very seriously and think is very important. So you'll find things like the library crawl, where you can go get stamps and then take them to, absolutely blanking, the bookstore. Bookstall, thank you. Take them to the bookstall and you can redeem it for, I think it was like 10% off of a purchase there. So things like that will be at the Winnetka Children's Fair. We're working with the Park District to put their giant games in our library of things so that more people can access them. So just wherever we can find places to work with other organizations and communities, that is something that we are working very hard to do. So those are my updates. Oh, and I promised that I would give my update on books. I'm sorry. I'm going to do it. I'm sorry.
Go. We got plenty of time.
Last year in my intro, which I did not do this year, I am Melissa Mitchell. I am the president of the library board. I'm doing this backwards. Bear with me. It's like I've never done this before. And this is actually going to be my last town hall speaking to you all. I'm on my way out as the president. And after this term, I will not be continuing on the board for now. I have too many small children. And so I might be back, but for now, this is it. And I have read 21 books so far this year. So I encourage you all to check out those e-resources. I read with my ears. It's very productive. Thanks for having me tonight.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right. Next up is Christina Cotto with the parks. So I'm going to start putting your planks up and you can take it away.
How's this? Good?
Yeah, a little close.
Good. Okay. Maybe a little closer. I'm going to move it over this way. So our first plank was intergovernmental cooperation, Elder Beach, and the status of that plank and its activities is in progress. So I wanted to highlight for people that are a little frustrated with the progress with Elder Beach, I wanted to make it clear through a couple of pictures exactly what we're facing. So this is our pier, the Park District's pier. This is the village's pipe underneath our pier. And this is some debris in the water. So we have to partner with our friends at the village to try and figure out what to do with this piece, because obviously this is somewhat in disrepair. It's 80 years old. We have, I don't need to read all of the verbiage supporting all of this because you can read it for yourselves. But I thought the pictures were important to share because I think it really demonstrates what we're up against. And for us, this is a priority, and for the caucus, it's a priority. But the village has a big agenda as well, and they have some items on their agenda that maybe are more important than the stormwater discharge pipe for Elder. But we are hopeful that we can work together and achieve an interim solution, which is the first most urgent work stream for Elder. And then the second longer term strategic goal of repairing and protecting that beach as well. So those permits were submitted in September for Elder. So we're waiting for our first meeting for them. But obviously the pipe and the pier are components of both of these plans. So that's where we are. We've submitted permits to all of the agencies to remove the debris. And we are hopeful that at the board agenda on May 22nd, we'll have some news with regard to how much it will cost to clear the debris. We'll have some contract numbers, and we're hopeful we can restart our IGA. Okay. Plank number 2, the donation agreement. The current agreement really can't be executed, and this pertains to the work stream that we're involved with Centennial. So work stream number 1, the very short-term urgent work stream, is to get a dog beach fence up for Centennial. Work stream number 2, which is the longer-term goal, is to move through the special use permitting process. So this would be the first experience for us going through the village's ordinances. It is also the first experience for all 4 of the advisory bodies and the village trustees in evaluating a beach. We are midway through step 2 of a 4-step process. So the point at which we would even consider finalizing the design would come after those 4 steps. And this donation agreement pertains to the elements of that design. So we have deferred any action on the donation agreement until after we work our way through the permitting process for Centennial and after we get some good feedback to determine what our design actually will be. Plank number 3, organic parks. This we have not started. It has not been identified as a priority in our statistically valid survey in the public engagement process during the Park District's comprehensive master planning process. We need a better assessment of what it will look like if we turn entirely to an organic status, because obviously the aesthetics are dramatically different. The golf club is an Audubon certified golf course, and it's the only Kemper sports managed course to reach all green to a tee levels in 1 year. It helps that it's new construction and that it's easier to do that when you're starting from a fresh slate. And was the recipient of the Green to a Tee award. So we've made progress on one of the assets that environmentally can be one of the biggest sources of fertilizer and runoff with the golf course. So I'm very proud of that. Plank 4 is the Winnetka Park District top areas of interest. We have a comprehensive master planning process that we began last summer. If you saw me at the farmers market, I shared the booth with Barry Dunn, who are our consultants for a comprehensive master plan. The top interests from that comprehensive process are an indoor pool, and an outdoor pool and a multipurpose community center. So the Park District anticipates including a feasibility study objective in the forthcoming strategic plan. So I just want to review how that works. It's the comprehensive master plan. Then out of that, we'll shake out a strategic plan. Then out of that, we will have some feasibility studies. We have had very preliminary conversations with New Trier Aquatics and New Trier Hockey, but the steps that we need to take to understand the scope, the potential costs, the budget, the usage, and the range. We have a number of nearby rinks. We have a number of data points for how much those assets cost in pools and rinks. So we can kind of get an idea how feasible these projects are for our district, which is quite small, quite frankly. Sure. Sure. The Green Bay Trail improvements are under the authority of the village. So I want to be really clear about this. The village owns the Green Bay Trail, and we have a 40-year lease to maintain the Green Bay Trail. The Park District paid $1 for that lease, and we don't receive any compensation for the maintenance of the Green Bay Trail. So that's the partnership as it currently exists. That will expire in 2027. So just to be clear, it is the asset of the village. It's an important asset of the village. It has quite a bit of potential. But it's something that, again, we partner with the village on that one. A non-beach off-leash dog park location has been established through the community priorities. However, this is going to be further addressed in the forthcoming strategic plan. We have the location. We don't yet have the funding. So I'd like to highlight a couple of non-plank updates. Many of you received for the first time in a while our many pages of the multicolor brochure. And I think that we had all forgotten at the Park District that as much as we wanted to save money and save paper and save trees, that it was really nice to be able to show a big, thick book of all of our activities together with all of the pictures of all of the members of our community enjoying those activities. So that was actually quite a pleasant surprise. We submitted permit applications to the IDNR, the IEPA, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, as well as information to be reviewed by the Cook County and the Village of Winnetka to add fencing to the Centennial Dog Beach to officially allow off-leash use. We began this comprehensive master plan, and we released for the first time the 2024 annual report, which summarizes the activities that we undertook in 2024. We received some recognition, so I'd like to brag just a little bit about the talented staff that we have. The finance team received a GFOA award for financial reporting excellence. We have maintained our AAA rating. We're not a big borrower. We don't anticipate being in the market anytime soon. Our marketing team received multiple awards at our statewide conference for a lot of the pictures that were taken of the activities that we engaged in. So we have some really darling photographs. Ian, I think there's some photos of activities that you loaded into these slides. There you go. And as I said, in golf, we have this Audubon certification, which is really quite a commitment and quite an exercise, as well as the Green to a T award. We have 2 commissioners rolling off of our board this year. We have Warren James, who's given 8 years of his life to the Winnetka Park District, probably more if you count the hours he's devoted to it. And we have Eric Lusson. Both of these gentlemen have served as vice president, and Warren has served as president, as well as on the Lakefront Master Plan. So we're grateful for their time with us. We are welcoming 2 new commissioners, Elise Gibson Duda and Scott Corley, and we're excited. We'll inaugurate them at the end of our May meeting. This will be my last appearance as president of the Winnetka Park District. I will roll off of my second term as 1-year term as president, but I will remain on the board until 2027. So happy to, we're taking questions at the end.
Yeah.
Excellent. Perfect.
So we're going to, that's for, again, for Q&A. I'm going to turn it over to Bob, but I'm going to leave this slide up while he's speaking. So this is the money raise slide. So
That's because I don't have any slides. So we're just going to do this because I can't look backwards anyway. But thank you, Ian, for having me. And if I had my druthers, I'd have my whole council here because, as you pointed out earlier about having good candidates, we have 6 of my colleagues are fantastic trustees. I will tell you that. I spoke last night. I'm into this role 24 hours. Last night we swore the new council in, including 3 caucus slated candidates, 2 of whom I've worked with in recent years and 1 of whom I worked with several years ago in his first round with the council, Scott Myers. The other 2, Kirk Albinson and Bridget Orsick, are just fantastic colleagues. Then we have 3 others who are entering their second year of their 2-year terms, Rob Apatoff, Tina Dahlman, and Kim Handler. Strong trustees. And I made the point last night that the key traits that I see in successful trustees, these 6 people have those. It's preparedness, they're analytical, they're thoughtful, they're collegial, and they're conscientious. And so I feel privileged to be working with them. And if I had my druthers, they'd be right here with me because we're rowing the oars together. I also mentioned last night that, and President Cotto mentioned this, that the village does have a lot on our plate, and it takes a lot of effort to row this boat. And that goes for the village staff, about 160 members of the village staff, including our fantastic village manager, Rob Bahan, and our deputy manager, Kristen Kazinas. We have 10 boards and commissions that report to the council. Several of the members of those boards and commissions are here today, and some new ones are here today as well. And so they are fantastic volunteers for this community. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the work. Many of these, and we're starting to populate these commissions and boards with younger residents, which is a key priority of mine, is to bring people into governance from the early ages, get them involved, because that's the future of Winnetka. We know that. And of course, the 3rd group or the 4th group, including the trustees, the staff, these boards and commissions, the 4th group are the residents. And this is who we all serve. I mean, this is why we're here. We're neighbors. We're not paid for this. As you mentioned earlier, Ian, we put a lot of time in on this, but it's for the residents. And so I put a plea out for all residents to come and tell us how we're doing. Sometimes we're doing really well, and sometimes we're missing the mark. And if we're missing the mark, bring recommendations, because that's how we know. We want to talk to people and try to do the best we can. So with that having been said, the platforms, and maybe I'll start with the last one, which we kind of touched a little bit, but there's a village-wide platform about all taxing bodies working together collaboratively. That is a high priority of mine. I want to have constructive relationships with every taxing body in this community. And I think one way to do that is for us to meet on a regular basis. The presidents get together quarterly or what have you, talk about what we're doing, what we can be doing better, what we can do better together. And so that is a priority of mine, and that's a priority of the caucus, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. In terms of the individual platforms, the first one has to do with going to referendum on capital expenditures and other expenditures of a certain dollar amount. I really appreciate the thought and the motives behind this, but I will say from the village standpoint, the vast majority, 90+% of what we do is infrastructure. It's non-discretionary spending. It's stormwater. It's streetscape. It's fire engines, $4 million equipment. I mean, it's really not discretionary projects that, that where we wouldn't get public engagement. We get public engagement on everything we do. Stormwater, we went through years of stormwater discussions with other government officials and so on. Streetscape, we had a downtown master plan, we had a streetscape plan. And then we had individual plans for West Winnetka, Indian Hill, East Winnetka, and now Hubbard Woods. So we try to get public engagement through all sorts of sources as opposed to a binary sort of referendum question that there's a lot of information that goes behind it. But the key thing for the village is our spending is really non-discretionary. And so we take the motive behind the referendum question to heart. And if we had discretionary project or we needed to get, the feedback from the community, we would absolutely consider going to referendum, but we can't go to referendum for a fire engine or something like that. It just wouldn't work for us. And part of the question on the referendum also gets to financial stewardship. Are we doing well with the money that we're spending? And I will tell you this, in my 8 years on the council, I think we have been exemplary as stewards of your money. We went 9 years straight from 2014 through 2022 with no increase in your tax levy coming from the village. And so inflation went on, no tax increase at all. The last couple of years, we've been less than inflation. Over the time frame when we became a home rule community in 2005, and there are tax caps that we could go up to. It's the lesser of 5% or the inflation rate. Over that period of time, we've been under the tax cap by roughly $20 million. And so when we go through our budgeting process, it is with a sharp pencil, I assure you. So I think we've been great stewards of the community's money, and we're always trying to get public engagement with anything we do. The second plank had to do with business development and what do people want? Casual dining, formal dining. Are we working with the landlords? One of the questions had to do with our ability to influence who goes into a property, in a commercial property that we don't own. We don't have a lot of say on that other than what we can bring. We can bring tenants to these landlords, and we try to do that on a daily basis. And our director of economic development, he's out there constantly trying to work with the landlords to fill spaces. Now, at this point, I'll have you know that we have less than 1% vacancy in the commercial districts in Winnetka. It's 0% in Indian Hill. Hubbard Woods, which used to be 20%, is down to low single digits. So there is very little space right now in the village of Winnetka for new businesses to come in. We would very much like to have more casual dining. That would be a priority of ours. But, we have to work with the landlords, and we have a lot of interest right now in Winnetka. We have a pipeline of companies that would like to come to Winnetka right now. And so that's a great position to be in. The third plank had to do with the post office site. Obviously, it's of interest to a lot of people out there. The post office site is village owned, that's for sure. It has been leased to the U.S. Postal Service for many years. That lease is coming to an end. It actually came to an end, and we've extended it a few times until the post office can find a new site in Winnetka, which they have found. They're going to be moving on to Lincoln Avenue, hopefully June or July. It's being built out. The lease right now, the extension goes to the end of July. The building that the post office is in right now there's no useful life left for that building. There's huge maintenance. The roof is in disrepair. The HVAC is in disrepair. That building has to come down. It's actually in our budget to demolish that building before year end. And what we're going to do while we assess with public engagement, extensive engagement, what to do with the post office site, we're going to put temporary parking up there. And the reason for that is that with the One Winnetka project and the Chase project, we've lost parking along the way within the village, not too far from there. And so that temporary parking for 18 months, let's say, is going to be kind of an over, excess parking that we can use during this time frame. And so that building has to go down. We have that plank, the post office plank, also kind of feeds into the fourth plank, which is open space. So President Rintz brought to the council a concept for open space for the post office last year. It really has been kind of a dormant issue for several years until the Postal Service knew what they were going to do. We consider that open space. Now, the plan that came forth is not the end game. We're going to engage professional consultants to help us with this. We're going to get resident committees to get involved in helping us decide how to orient that space. I think that open space is going to be a key component of that. Whether it's 100% open space or 80%, I can't say at this point, but open space will be a key component. And we're going to take that up actually in our study session in June. We're going to be assessing council priorities at that time. The post office will be a key priority. That will absolutely be re-engaged here, and it's going to be a high priority for this council over the next year to 2 years. I can assure you of that. The open space question I thought was interesting. It was probably the most clear-cut response of all the survey questions. It said a majority of respondents, 55%, are satisfied with the village's open space, and a significant majority, 75%, feel the open space should be protected from development or sale, 75%. I suspect that in our June meeting will come up as a priority to look into because of the response to this question. I don't know where it's going to go, but I think the residents spoke loud and clear here on their valuing open space and protecting it. And so, that's something that we are going to respond to. The fifth plank has to do with transportation and mobility. And there were two parts of this. One had to do with an east-west corridor trying to get from East Winnetka, let's say, out to the Forest Preserve zone. And that was actually addressed several years ago. There was a bikeway master plan that was put together between 2012 and 2015. And the council reviewed it. And the whole idea was, how do we get bicyclists to go to the west? And it was put on the shelf for safety reasons. At the time, they sort of honed in on Elm Street out here as one of the key corridors, and the trustees at the time just couldn't get over the public safety issues with that. And so I think that if we're going to look at that issue, we're going to have to rekindle this kind of a study and see if there's a way to do this safely. I don't know if there is or not, but that our roads, whether it's Winnetka Avenue or Tower Road or Elm Street, they're narrow. And, that's a challenge, but we'll look into it. The other part of that question had to do, and I think we all are aware of this, with scooters and e-bikes and so on, the proliferation of those, I'll call them vehicles, on the roads. Some are driven by 12-year-olds, and some are driven by 22-year-olds, and some are driven by 50-year-olds or whatever. And so that is an issue that our police chief, I talked to him today about this, that they are working regionally on that issue because it is a common problem across communities, all the communities that we work with. There is a bit of Illinois legislation. Ironically, it really just deals with slow-moving scooters, which tend to be used by 12-year-olds. And so our police department is not going to go out and cite 12-year-olds for riding their scooters. That's just not going to happen. But that doesn't diminish the issue, the importance of the issue. And I think in talking to the chief and other people within Village, the way to do this is with carrots and not sticks. You may have seen some of the bike signs up in the commercial district, walk your bikes. That's been an education initiative. And I think we need to do that. And this is what Chief O'Connell is thinking about, how to educate, how to come to Washburn, educate the kids on how to safely use their scooters, where they should use them, and how to use them responsibly. So that, I think, is ongoing right now. Again, that is not a Winnetka issue alone. That's across the country, frankly. So those are the 5 planks, some of which we can absolutely be working on, some of which are a little more challenging for us given our operations. I do want to mention in response to President Cotto on the stormwater issue and a couple other priorities, and it kind of gets into this issue. I would say a couple of the key priorities that we're going to have in the coming year or two is one, the Hubbard Woods streetscape project and other initiatives up in Hubbard Woods, including the metro station, the parking garage, streetscape, et cetera. Hubbard Woods needs work. We're committed to it. That's going to happen. And then we have a very large east side stormwater analysis going on. So we're all familiar with the west side. That's the detention of the water. That work is pretty much done. Now we're going to be in the conveyance stage, moving water down the streets into detention. And that starts really in 2026. The east side, and that's about an 80 some odd $1 million project, the west side. The east side, which we have engineers looking at right now, is obviously working around Sheridan Road and the adjoining streets and so on. Actually, everything east of Green Bay Road is what we're talking about. That's about half of the price of the west side project. So it's about the estimate is about 40 some odd $1 million. Still a very big project for this community. The stormwater pipe that President Cotto showed is at Elder. And I believe, and Shannon, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that our village staff has been working with Park District staff in talking about how to handle this pipe. Because my understanding is that that pipe can be repaired. And we are a little hesitant right now to remove that pipe without having, because it might be an important element to a $40 million project. So we don't want to get ahead of our engineers and just say, we're going to remove that pipe. If we can repair it for the time being and use that as part of a solution, as part of an economically viable solution for this $40 million project. We don't know if we move it, where we're going to move it, or what that does to the cost of the project. And so my understanding at the moment is that we feel that that pipe can be repaired and used until we have, you know, more clarity on the stormwater project. And, you know, 80 million is enormous for Winnetka. 40 million is exceedingly large for Winnetka. And that's a big project. We're going to be working with New Trier. We're going to be working with other government officials. We're going to try to get grant money for this, just like we got 30 some odd million of grant money for the west side. We're going to be working on getting grant money, but it's an expensive project and we can't get ahead of ourselves on this by eliminating that pipe right now. So more conversations to be had. I understand that. And again, my overarching message to the board people that are here is that we want to work collaboratively with everybody. And that's a mission. That's a priority of mine. We'll make that happen. So those are my comments.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Bob. And thank you, Christina. And thank you, Melissa. Very, very good. Very informative. So we do have time for Q&A. So, yep, I'm going to give Matt the mic here. Hang on. Please stand by. So Matt's been taking the questions from hello@winnetkacaucus.org and he's going to try to curate them as best he can here. So we'll go through the Q&A, and then if there's any time left over after we kind of dismiss the meeting, if you guys wouldn't mind staying until 9 o'clock, and
Sure.
you know, maybe folks will want to come down and say hello. So appreciate it.
And Ian, and for those, can folks hear me? For those here and for those at home, I have not received one question tonight, but I have some from the last couple of days. So hello@winnetkacaucus.org. If you have a question that popped up tonight that you want asked tonight, email it right now, and I'll try and wrap it into the questions that are being asked. But we do have a handful that have been sent in advance of the meeting. And thank you to everybody participating tonight. We know that this is a thankless job, so somebody should continue to say thank you. These questions, some of them are technical, some of them are not, but I'm going to read them as they were asked, and then you can hear the spirit of them and do your best. Does that sound fair?
Fair enough.
Okay, so first is for Christina with the parks. Plank number 1 of the 24-25 caucus platform reported that over 60% of respondents support implementing an interim plan to open Elder Lane Beach for the swimming season. What specific steps has the park district taken to honor the clear public mandate? When will the district implement an interim plan to ensure Elder Lane Beach is made as safe and accessible for public use this summer? as overwhelmingly requested by the community.
Okay, so I believe the pictures may have informed the response because this question was submitted earlier, correct?
Yep.
Okay, and I can list that the IDNR permits and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers permits have all been submitted. And as I said, we're working with the village, our staffs are working together to see what is a relatively speaking safe solution. Look, it might be a beach only. It might not involve any water access at all. We are at the May 22nd meeting. We hope to have bids for the debris removal. We'll see if we can get that done. Obviously, that's a scheduling issue. That's a numbers issue as well, but we do have the resources available to handle the removal of that debris. The question just becomes timing. And then we have to figure out how to address that pier, which is our pier, together with the village. So I hope that answers the question, but I think the pictures might have answered it to a pretty crystal clear degree.
But for those here and at home,
Sure.
what do we think about swimming in 2025 at Elder Lane Beach? High probability, low probability?
Let's see what the debris removal timing is, because that's going to determine if it's early in the summer season, then obviously swimming becomes a higher possibility. If it's later in the season, it becomes a lower possibility. If we can work together on the pipe and the pier to make sure that that is not a hazard, then maybe water access can be allowed. But remember, there's some buried debris in there. And I think you saw that pipe. I don't know if you want to put it back up, but if you saw that pipe, there's some pieces missing of that pipe. And the pier is not solid on the sides. So we have seen pieces, circular sections, slim sections float out from underneath that pier up onto the beach. And they could also float out into the water. So obviously you'd want to address that before you had any water access. So
Okay, great.
that's,
Matt, can I just ask follow up on one thing there?
Sure.
And I think Shannon's here, I wanted to be clear that, we encourage communication between the park district staff and our village staff on this.
Yep.
The village wants to work arm in arm with the park district to get that beach open. So if we have to figure out how to cordon off that pier and that pipe, let's figure it out. Let's get that beach open. I think there is a good dialogue going on right now. Okay, Shannon,
come on up, Shannon.
You got to get a mic though, Shannon. You got to get a mic.
come on down.
Shannon is all the
As long as it's
executive
good news,
director of
Shannon.
the district.
Hi, I wasn't planning to speak, but I'm Shannon Nizal. I'm the executive director of the Park District. And thank you for the opportunity to add a little bit more clarification on this. So we have been working hand in hand with village staff on trying to get Elder Beach open for this summer. We had a lot more regulatory bodies that we had to go to get further approvals for some of this work. We received a determination from IDNR that they didn't need anything further from us. But we did have to go to the Army Corps and we had to go to SHPA for historical value of the end of that Elder Pier to see if there was any historical value before we could remove that. But we have received approval from Army Corps, so that determination from IDNR and from Army Corps has been sent to the village. So we are currently in the lakefront construction permit process, which is an administrative process with the village to be able to do that debris removal. So while that's in process, we have started to go out to bid for this work. So that bid is open now for contractors to submit. I believe we will open those bids May 19th, which is really close to our meeting on the 22nd, but we tried to get it done as quickly as possible so we could have that decision made, so we can get that work done as soon as possible. But pending the lakefront construction permit and then the schedule of the companies that may come out to do the work, which could be either land-based or water-based, based on availability and price and that sort of thing. That's still up in the air right now until we get those bids back on that. So at this point, we are prepared to open for sand only. And then open for water usage once we have that debris cleared up, so it is safe for the public's use. But we have prepared for staffing, we've prepared for signage to give people an update on hazards in the water, that sort of thing in the interim if we get to that point. But we'll have more information for the public on that at our meeting on the 22nd.
We have also budgeted for lots of staffing.
Yes.
So there'll be lots of people there, basically to tell you can't go in the water. But
You know, I think the Park District meetings and our meetings have had residents come and plead to open that beach, open those and, you know, again, we want to work arm in arm with the Park District to get that beach open this season. So our staff is ready to work hard to make this happen, Shannon. So whatever, you know, is needed to be done, let's talk about that. Thank you.
Well, you both answered the question, so I think you're already demonstrating that you're working together. So thank you very much. The next one is for you, President Dearborn. This is from John Gurley, and I'm sorry if I didn't indicate Christine or President Coda. The first question was from John Root. Second question was from John Gurley. In roughly 10-year span of negotiating One Winnetka, approximately how much in property sales sales tax have been lost, and what is the total amount of legal fees and other costs related to One Winnetka?
Good questions. I don't have the answers.
Not sure you have that in front of you.
I don't have those answers.
But take the spirit of the question.
Let's take the
One
spirit of the
Winnetka,
question.
what's going on?
So One Winnetka,
we going?
let's kind of, you know, roll the tape back a little bit. Let's go back into the mid 2000s. I don't know, it was 2005, 2006 when the first owners bought it. Sold it to the second owners. A building project was approved. It was approved. The builder defaulted on the plan development agreement, financial considerations. So all along here, private piece of property, village can approve the development. We have say on the development, but it's a private piece of property. We're not financing it. We're not involved with a lot of the decisions on how that project goes along. Recently, Murphy Development Company, very well-established company. As you probably all know, they now own the property. They bought it from a bank. So now they own the property, and the One Winnetka project is slated to begin later this month, early June. It's 3 stories of rental apartments, luxury apartments, and then 20,000 feet of commercial on the ground floor. The question about property taxes that we haven't received, it depends on what was going to be there. Since pre-pandemic, that commercial space has not been on the market. So that has been, as we all know, Connie's Pharmacy, Fells, you know, so on and so forth. It has not been habitable. And so, and again, privately owned. The village does not have the ability to do anything about that. So there has been a cost from tax collection on that had it been active. It's been a long and arduous trail with this project, but I think what's on slated now is very nice. Legal fees have not been extraordinarily high on One Winnetka. Certainly, I mean, just because a lot of the years it was just laying fallow, sadly. I mean, I live down the street from One Winnetka. It's been awful. And, you know, my neighbors would agree to that. But, you know, I think we see light at the end of the tunnel here. I think the project is viable. It's a good looking project. It's a strong developer. It's a local architect. I think we've got something that could work here. And You know, the last 15 years have been very difficult on Winnetka, but again, it's very different than the post office site that's a publicly owned site. Winnetka has been privately owned the entire way. We've had very little say in what was going to happen there.
Thank you, President Dearborn. I have two more questions that came before this evening for President Kodo, and I'm going to ask another elder-related question because it relates to that, and we'll move to another topic. This one's from Katie Stevens. Two chunks of a question. I'm going to give you both chunks in one. It was estimated to cost $65,000 to open Elder. I'm reading verbatim. There's nothing to prevent the WPD from opening Elder Centennial now. Why aren't they doing this now? The Winnetka Park Board has had 5 years of total neglect of Elder Beach. They could have spent money to clear this for 5 years, and they haven't done one thing yet. No wonder the pier is not in mint condition, but 5 years ago, it was an easy repair. Why have you done nothing to the water or pier over the last 5 years? This is not a new problem. Two different submissions I squished into one.
I don't know where the $65,000 number comes from. I think that pieces of debris removal, pieces of repairs, small inspections, surface inspections have yielded a variety of numbers, but that is a grossly inadequate number. That said, we have the funds to open Elder. The problem is we need to work together with the village. And I think as you heard here tonight, they have a Southeast Winnetka stormwater question. The Elder stormwater discharge pipe that is under our pier is a major discharge for the village of Winnetka. So if they decide that they want to upgrade that pipe, then they have to decide what they do with the discharge in the interim. If they decide that they want to upstream the discharge, then they have to decide how they create the infrastructure to pull it against grade northward. So it's not just our decision. It's not just the Park District's decision. It's an asset that delivers flooding relief from the underpass at New Trier, and it delivers flooding relief to the Fuller Lane community, which basically becomes a river. So it is an important release valve, and to move it is no small exercise. The plans that we did have in place in 2022 before those permits were pulled had us, the Park District, working together with the village. We were going to reroute that pipe and bury it with a minimal disturbance of old growth trees. We were going to reroute it and bury it under a new breakwater or groin on the north side of our property at Elder. And unfortunately, in a 5-person board meeting on June 9th, 2022, those permits were pulled. They were in place. We were in the process of receiving feedback. We could have been, if those permits had not been pulled, we would have had Elder open and Centennial open, and we would all have been swimming there the summer of 2024, this past summer. So that's just how the cookie crumbles. I was not at that meeting. Eric Lusson was also absent. It was a 5-person meeting. It was a 3-2 vote. And it's really unfortunate because an enormous amount of work went in. We had the financing in place, and costs have not gone down since 2022. They have not gone down. So
In the spirit of the question,
sure.
And I'm not a fact checker, so I don't know if it's actually been closed for 5 years. I didn't live here then, so I can't tell you. But if there's an interim solution happening, like seems to be happening on the table between you right now, which is great.
Yeah.
And why today and why not in the last 5 years?
I think until 2022, when the permits were pulled, we felt like we could get the big Centennial plus Elder solution executed. In the time immediately following 2022, we still felt like we could gather feedback, make any adjustments that people had objections to, and move forward with a bigger project all the way across. Now it's become clear that we're working on a tactical basis. And it's hard to spend money for a short-term solution because it's not an insignificant amount of money. It's hard to spend money for a short-term solution when the full, complete solution to repair and protect and then add ADA access at Centennial, for example, it's hard to spend money on a short-term solution when the comprehensive solution is so tantalizingly close. So now it's become clear that the permitting process is a bit of an education process for all of us. We don't know where we are meeting the advisory committees. We don't know where they're starting. Each time we feel like we're honing in on a couple key issues, we realize at the end of the process that we're really starting the education process a little bit further back. And it's fine. We've done 3 beaches. This is their first beach. That's fine. But, there are 4 advisory committees, including the village board of trustees. This education process is good for the village to watch. It's good for the residents to watch. It's good for people to understand why we are choosing the elements we're choosing and why we're choosing the processes we're choosing. Because it just makes everybody understand why we're choosing a groin, why we're choosing a breakwater, why we're choosing ADA access. Just, it's not wasted, but when the comprehensive solution is so close, it's hard to do the tactical solution and spend money when you know you're going to have to redo it.
Understood. Thank you. I have one more question I'm going to ask from a pre-submissions. So if there's a question from tonight that you'd like answered tonight, please email hello@winnettkacaucus.org right now. Last question is for President Kodo. This is from Peggy Marte. The 24-25 Parks Plank number 2 provided that the Park District should renegotiate the terms of the donation agreement to eliminate the restrictive covenants or pursue alternative funding if necessary. What steps has the district taken to renegotiate the donation agreement with the Ishpia Family Foundation to remove the restrictive covenant that gives control of Centennial Park to a private interest for 50 years?
So I'm happy with the answer that we supplied here. We're setting that whole agreement aside since we are halfway through the second step of a 4-step process for permitting of Centennial. We submitted our permits for Centennial April 3rd, 2024. And so we're over a year into the process and we have completed step 1. We are partway through step 2. We are beginning the 16th hour of our testimony in front of the Plan Commission on May 28th. Behind that 16 hours is, just for the 10 minutes of comments that I make, probably 9 hours of drafting and research. There were 86 questions that we received after the January meeting. There were 400 pages of documents that we submitted. As I said, each time we feel like we've sort of accumulated a common set of facts and that we're working from a common body of stipulated facts, we realize that in fact we have to take another step back. And I will say the village did an excellent job with 2 study sessions. One, January 10th, 2023, and the second one, September 12th, 2023, wherein they had all the permitting agencies speak about the current conditions of Winnetka. These are the people, it's 100% of their job to do water projects and protection for lakefront. Second study session was Caleb Barth, who was vetted and hired by the village from Baird Associates, specifically to be the coastal review expert for the village. So we have a long way to go to get the permits, and that's one of the reasons that we've set it aside. I'd also like to take 5 seconds to address a very common refrain, which is control of the park. This restrictive covenant, excuse me, stipulates that 5 elements, and only 5 elements, that run with the deed of that park, 5 elements, remain as they are if they are built. The elements are the dog beach and the dog beach fence, public access, the ADA walkway, and the groin or the breakwater. Those 5 elements. Those are the only things that that donation is attached to. So it's not control of the park, it's not activities, it's not programming, it's not hours of operation, it's not anything like that. Also, let's be very clear that those 5 elements are stipulated to be maintained regardless of ownership. So whether we own that property or whether that property would be swapped to the neighbor to the south, those elements would remain. Public access would remain. The dog beach and the dog beach fence would remain. The breakwater would, or groin, would remain. The ADA accessible pathway would remain. These are elements that are valuable to our community. They're valuable to me. I think they're uniformly valuable to every single citizen in Winnetka. Who doesn't want public access? Who doesn't want an ADA accessible pathway that also serves to provide emergency vehicle access and maintenance vehicle access? Who doesn't want a dog beach together with a dog beach fence? There's been so much misunderstanding of these elements. Read the agreement, listen to my comments, come to the farmer's market. I'm happy to explain it to you. I hope that answers the question.
I think it does. And just for my clarity, you said that this item of the restrictive covenant or finding a new funding source, you said that's being set aside because
We don't have permits.
because you have to get the other things done. So it's not like you're not dealing with that issue. You're just not dealing with it today.
Yeah, we don't have permits for Centennial. So all of those elements are would be happening at Centennial. We don't have permits. We're looking for feedback. We thought as we moved through the Zoning Board of Appeals process that we had some consensus on a couple of elements that would allow us to, improve our application, but it turned out we don't. So let's get, we've got everyone's attention focused on this project in exactly the same way that we did in the summer of 2022. And we would like to focus that attention and understand what is the consensus result that will allow us to repair and protect and add ADA access. Let's get everybody focused on this project. Let's get everybody educated on all of the engineering specifics. Let's listen to all of the expert testimony. There are 16 hours of it out there from the Zoning Board of Appeals. Go ahead and listen to it and educate yourself so that you can help us make a good project for Winnetka, because there is nothing that my board or the prior board that Warren led or the board before that Mickey led, Mickey Archambault, wants more than to get this beach repaired, protected, open, and including ADA access. Nothing we want more.
Great, thank you. And we have no new questions in the inbox.
Thank you, Matt. So if there's anything that comes in and, in the next day or two, excuse me, we'll forward that to the boards. But I just want to say again, thank you to the boards. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. And thank you for the people who logged into the webinar. So we'll wrap it up tonight. I think we're 2 or 3 minutes early. So
Wow.
I think a successful meeting. It ends a little bit early. So thank you very much.
Thank you.